Hello students. Now continuing with lesson 6, we will be going to the different types of ocean resources. We are going to talk about the ocean resources. Now when I talk about the ocean resources, what am I going to understand from that? There are a variety of resources found abundantly at different levels of ocean flow. They are called biotic resources and abiotic resources. Now students, when we talk about biotic resources is basically what we are talking about is plants, animals and humans, all the living organisms or the living things. So here biotic resources includes mainly plants and animals. The oceans provide a habitat, I mean a living for thousands of species of marine plants and animals, which are source of food for many organisms including man. Of course, man also comes into this. The fish basically forms a valuable source of food and nutrients. There are many nutrients which are available in fish. That's why they say that they have nutrient value. Coral reefs, basically we've studied a lot about it, are a major part of ocean ecosystem. In addition to fish, mollusks and seaweeds are also found. Many sea animals provide oil. We have heard about omega-3 fatty acids, wherein these are very good for the health. Leather, we get glue, cattle feed, and other useful products. In the medicine industry, when we talk medically, also omega-3, sometimes people have deficiency of this, so they consume these tablets which have, these are called those 7C's tablets, which are available I guess in the medical stores, which definitely have omega-3. So in the medicine industry, besides medicinal plants found underwater, pearls and corals are widely used. Seaweeds grow easily in seawater and have been used as a food for centuries. Now, seaweeds is also included in the beauty and cosmetic industries. They are used for making products such as skincare ointment and also used as fertilizers. There are microorganisms which produce organic material. Now, there are some microorganisms which are there in the ocean. As a resource, they produce organic material. What are they called? They are called planktons. Now, there are two types of planktons. We are going to study about those. So, which are the two types of planktons? Here, photoplanktons and zooplanktons. They have various colors such as blue, green, red, and yellow. The marine life mainly depends upon these planktons. This plays a very important role in the marine life. Whales also eat planktons. It's somewhere a food for fish. On the coast, a large variety of vegetation is found. On tropic coasts, mangrove vegetation is found abundantly. For marine life, these mangroves are very important because they provide food and shelter to them. Besides marine life, some other animals also exist in mangrove forests, such as tigers in the Sundarban. I will show you all some more slides relating to plankton and what are mangroves and all of that. These mangrove forests provide wood for fuel, sorry, furniture and various products useful to man. Now let us understand what are planktons. If you look at it, students, planktons basically, it's the Greek meaning is to drift. They are weakly swimming or drifting organisms. They are already present in the oceans. Microscopic or macroscopic in size. When we talk about phytoplankton, it is plant related, or animal related is called zooplankton. So there are the two types which I spoke to you all about. Now, why is it important if we talk about these planktons? These planktons serve as a food source and they are a basis of the food web. Food web means the amount or number of food chains constitute a food web. Producer of oxygen, wherein photosynthesis, it's basically for plants. Cause of toxic blooms, basically resulting in fish kills and shellfish poisoning. Means for dispersal of organisms by transport in currents. So it is also a means of dispersal. Dispersal meaning, students, spreading out. The major players in the global carbon cycle. It is a major player in the global carbon cycle. Now, how are they studied? If you see, these planktons, these small micro macroscopic organisms, they are collected with sampling bottles, and for these there are special nets. Then microscopes are used, and then they are cultured in labs. This is the phytoplankton, plant related. These are the various types of phytoplanktons. Now, how do they float? There are different shapes involved. They are diatoms and dinoflagellates. So it can be in form of spines, setae, it's lightweight oils, flagella. It can be in chains, and it spreads over a wide surface area. When I talk about mangroves, what is it? Mangroves are various kinds of trees up to medium height and shrubs that grow in saline, salty coastal sediment habitats in the tropics and subtropics. With their roots submerged in water, they thrive in hot, muddy, salty conditions. With their roots basically which are submerged in water, they thrive in hot, muddy, salty conditions. They are extremely important to our well-being and to the health of the planet. These mangroves play a very important role, and they are very important because as suppose they are definitely providing food and shelter. That is one thing which is very common in them. They are extremely important to our well-being and to the health of the planet. They include a filtration system that keeps out much of the salt. Complex root system. Look at the picture sideways. You can see the complex root system that holds the plants upright in the shifting sediments where land and water meet is seen in them. So there is a complex root system which is there, which holds the plants upright and shifts the sediments where land and water meet and is seen in them. Now, what are the uses of mangrove, students? This is more knowledge. Take it wherein it can help you all in expanding your answers when you write in your own words. So just a line or two also, if you'll add of your own, it can help you all score good marks. Biological diversity. When we talk about biological diversity, they provide food, nesting and nursery areas for many animals, which include at least 200 over fish species, 20 reptiles and amphibian species, 15 mammal species and over 150 bird species. If you remove the mangroves, many of these species might be driven to extinction. Means this could be the condition that if these mangroves are removed, there could be more of these animals which could near extinction and invariably affect our source of food and water in many ways. Now, if we look at it as environmental protection, then how do we look at it? The mangroves protect the coastline by acting as wave breaks. They protect the coastline by acting as wave breaks. They stabilize coastline, they normalize coastlines, and they serve as natural barriers, protectors against huge storms, preserving coastlines. They act as wind breaks, which reduce the force of winds, lowering the chances of property getting destroyed in wind storms. Another usage of these, retain, concentrate, recycle nutrients. Mangroves, what do? They actually retain, they concentrate, and they recycle nutrients, and they trap debris. What is the debris? It's the remains. They trap the debris, the sediments, the excess nutrients, extra nutrients, and toxins, the toxicants, through their natural filtering process. So in mangroves, basically there's a natural filtering process which looks after this, and it helps recycle nutrients, it helps retain all of those through their natural filtering process, and improves the water quality of the tidal rivers that drain through the mangroves. Now, as a use, what does it do? It provides resources. The mangroves provide us with food and water, medicinal herbs, timber, fuel, and materials. These are the normal uses of these mangroves. So this is kind of, it comes under the biotic resources. Now the environment, basically what we were talking about is the biotic factors and the abiotic factors. Okay, so we spoke about the biotic factors. So the biotic factors, basically these resources on the ocean floor are valuable. Now what does biotic and abiotic mean? Biotic means living, that is life. Bio is biology, biological is life related. Abiotic is non-living. Biotic factors are all of the living things in an environment. Abiotic factors are all of the non-living things in an environment. Now, when we talk about the biotic factors and abiotic factors, before I go to the next resources, that's the abiotic, we'll understand this. Biotic food, both quantity and quality of food are important because living organisms are concerned with this. So the quantity and quality are important. Predators refer back to the predator-prey relationship. What are the competitors? There are other organisms which may require the same resources from an environment. See, there are so many millions of different organisms which are thriving upon in marine life, and they could have the same requirement. They might need the same resources from an environment. Parasites, they may cause disease and slow down the growth of an organism. Now coming to abiotic. Abiotic, basically the temperature over here is higher temperatures. They speed up the enzyme and they catalyze reactions and increase growth. Oxygen availability affect the rate of energy production by respiration. The light availability for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is how plants carry photosynthesis. And the breeding cycle. Some animals are breeding. There is a breeding cycle, particular breeding cycle which animals go through. And in plants, the toxins and pollutants, their tissues grow may be reduced. Now, this is the biotic and the abiotic factors. Now, what are the factors which affect the distribution of living things? The environment includes abiotic components. When we look at these abiotic components, what are the abiotic components? If you look, the sun, the insulation, the nutrients. The biotic components basically are the consumers, the herbivores, the carnivores. Consumers can be primary, secondary, tertiary. Herbivores are plant-eating animals. Carnivores are animal eating. Decomposers, different kinds of decomposers, the fungi and the bacteria. Over here, what happens? The heat energy released gets trapped. Then there is the nutrients from these cycles, which are the gases, the water and the minerals, all go up to these producers, and the producers are the autotrophs, which are only the plants. So the abiotic components, that's the insulation and the sun, which carries on this whole circle, and there is heat generated also in the process. So the environment includes abiotic components, non-living chemical and physical factors such as temperature, light, water and nutrients. Biotic components include living things such as plants, animals, fungi and all the other living organisms which come under this. So when we talk about the abiotic, it's going to be temperature, light, water and nutrients. So with this diagram, you all can associate it with the explanation given. What is an ecological factor? We talk about ecology or ecological factor that influences. It is any factor that influences living organisms, and they are divided into three groups. What could be those? Abiotic, biotic, and anthropogenic. Now this abiotic, this affects the effect of non-living chemical and physical factors. The biotic, what we are studying right now, is biotic, the effect of living things to each other. The third one is anthropogenic. This just for your knowledge, the effect of humans to environment. How do we create an effect on the environment? Through our own actions. The abiotic factors. So what is abiotic factors? The abiotic factors are important determinants of the distribution of organisms in the biosphere. I repeat again, if you look at this, air, wind, gases, water, soil, temperature, these all come under abiotic. They are non-living. The climatic factors are the light, the temperature, the water. The soil factors are the structure of the soil, minerals and salts. The climatic factors, the variety of living things on earth is affected and determined by sunlight, temperature, pressure, moisture and air movements, which are all together called climatic factors. So if you see over here what climatic factors can do over here, the delta levels, the habitat, the water quality, the water use, groundwater, the drought, agriculture, floods, hydroelectric power, snow-packed areas, river overflow, all of that. Second is light also is an abiotic factor. So when we talk about light as an abiotic factor, the energy source for all organisms in nature is light. We all know that very well. The reproduction, the migration and the pigmentation of various organisms are all affected by light. Light is essential for photosynthesis. We very well know light is essential for photosynthesis. Thus, it affects plants. Plants go through this process of photosynthesis, which is a very important part of their existence. Temperature. All life on earth needs heat to survive. Some part of heat is required. The source of this heat is sunlight. Animals are placed into two groups according to the relationship between their body temperature and the air temperature. They are poikilothermal animals without constant body temperature, and they are homoiothermal animals with constant body temperature. Now, there are different invertebrates, fish, frogs, and reptiles are poikilothermal animals. Their body temperature depends on the environment. The homoiothermal animals are birds and mammals. Next is water factor. Plants are placed in three groups according to their water needs. Hydrophytes grow where water is always available. We've studied about this in your junior classes where it's available. Water lily and elodea. Mesophytes, they grow where water availability is intermittent. Clover or lilac. Xerophytes grow where water is scarce, very limited, most of the time. Example, cactus. The soil factors. Now, soil is very suitable for life, suitable to life for bacteria, fungi, viruses, algae, and protozoans. Soil is it's basically the lifeline for the plants to thrive upon. And there are different kinds of soils which you are all well aware of. So there are different factors which make each soil different from one another. So it is very suitable to life for bacteria, fungi, viruses, algae, and protozoans. Microorganisms are especially abundant in soil rich in organic waste. The dominance of a microorganism in certain area is determined by environmental conditions. What are the soil factors? Now, how does this development happen? Students, I've just introduced you all to abiotic factors, and we are going to study about it also. But these, what are actually each of those? How are they identified? Why are they identified as abiotic factors? Is something which we are getting to know about. So the next is soil factors. The soil factors: soil, water, air, organic and inorganic molecules are very important for plant growth. The ratio of these four groups in the soil are as follows: minerals, organic molecules. Minerals is 45%, that can be calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and nitrogen. Uh, Organic, sorry, not nitrogen. Organic molecules, plant and animal residues, that's 5%. Air is 25%. Water is soil water with dissolved salts, that constitutes to 25%. So this is the soil factors. Then we talk about the minerals and salts. Now, minerals, we know calcium as a mineral. Food sources of calcium include dairy products, green leafy vegetables. Organisms contain very important and vital minerals. We know that certain organisms contain different minerals and how they play an important role. So the most important ones are magnesium, calcium, iron, phosphorus, vitamin K. Deficiency of these causes serious problems in living things. For example, calcium is an element used by all organisms. Calcium is a component of animal endo and exoskeletons and is necessary for muscle contraction and blood clotting. Now, to put it again to biofactors, one slide which was very interesting, and what it could sum it up for all the biotic factors. When we talk about the biotic factors, they include the producers. The only producers are plants, which are called autotrophs. The consumers basically, there are also levels in consumers. You'll have studied about that. That can be animals. They depend upon producers for food. I mean, grass is eaten by the rabbit. Okay. Then there are decomposers. Now, what are these decomposers? Fungi and bacteria. They break down chemicals from producers and consumers into simpler form, which can be reused. I spoke to you all about a food web in the tundra biome. What is a food web? Now, this is a food web in the tundra biome. There are small predators. Now, let's begin with the primary producers. At a very basic level, you always see there's permafrost, where the ground is permanently frozen. There are life forms probably which are dormant, which are sleeping. Okay. Then if you all see, there are nematodes, there is water saturated ground, there are small shallow lakes, and there are some bacteria in it. Now it comes, these level come up, that's primary producers, primary consumers, and small predators. What do we see at the beginning? Primary producers, the flowering plants, the grasses, the sedges, the lichens, the willows. Now these are 4 inches or less in height. Basically what all you see in the tundra biome. The biomes, we are going to study about it in the next class. Then the primary consumers. Now these are the primary consumers, the musk oxen, the insects, and the lemmings. So this is the second level. The small predators here, which are the small predators? There's the snowy owl and the Arctic fox. So this gives us a brief introduction about the biotic factors. So what did we cover in the biotic factors? Basically, they include plant and animals. They provide a habitat to thousands of species of marine plants, which acts as a food for them. There are many marine animals like tortoise, prawns, fish, mollusks. Then there are plant varieties, which I spoke to you all about in detail. I told you all about seaweeds. Seaweeds basically is which is used in cosmetic industries. The mangroves, the biological use all of that. Mangroves I showed you all slides. The different types of medicinal plants which are there, and many more marine plants. Then there are many sea animals. Now there are sea animals which give us what? Oil, leather, glue, many other products. Mangroves, as I told you all, it provides us furniture and fuel. Then there are, I spoke to you all about planktons. What are planktons? What is their Greek name? Which are the two types of planktons? Zooplankton and phytoplankton. Phytoplankton is related to plants, zooplankton is related to animals. Then, or the marine life basically depends or thrives upon plankton. Coral reefs also, they play a major part of the ecosystem. And if you all see over here, if you all see the ocean floor, many places, there are tourists who get attracted to this. So basically, the biotic sources on the ocean floor become very valuable. And this is what we studied about the first section, that was the biotic resources under ocean resources.